Welcome to Priestess Initiations, the Goddess Coven. I'm Casey Dunn, educator, priestess, and professional somatic therapist. In April 2025, I went through a priestess initiation of old and launched the Priestess Initiations podcast 6 months later. Whatever brought you here today, I invite you to drop into the spiral with me. Let's begin. Welcome back to Priestess Initiations, the Goddess Coven. I'm Casey, and today we're talking about the Akashic Records, Jung's collective unconscious, and Plato's theory of forms. And of course, how all of these point to the same truth. There's a layer of reality beyond individual consciousness, where we can access shared wisdom. And I'm going to tell you how this connects to Jungian and existential psychology and the Heal the Earth mission that came through for me a year and a half ago, and how you can be a part of it starting this spring. But first, let me share this week's astrology, because once again, the cosmos is speaking directly to what we're exploring. This week, Uranus stations direct on Tuesday at 7:33 p.m. Mountain Time. And Uranus is the rebel archetype, the breakthrough, the lightning bolt of innovation. And so after months of retrograde, which is turning inward, processing change internally, Uranus is stationing direct, and that means it's time to move forward. The breakthroughs you've been incubating, they're ready to be born. And here's what's interesting. Both Mercury and Venus challenge Uranus this week through squares. So Mercury squares Uranus Thursday morning, and Venus squares Uranus on Sunday. And that's electric tension between conventional communication and radical change, between traditional values and revolutionary vision. And Mercury also shifts from Aquarius into Pisces on Friday afternoon. And Mercury is the messenger, remember? And so that essentially means we're moving from rational, intellectual innovation into intuitive, mystical knowing. And that's how you're going to receive your messages. So we've been receiving messages rationally and innovatively when Mercury was in Aquarius. And now, as it moves into Pisces, the messenger is going to deliver those messages in a more mystical, spiritual way. And so this really is the perfect signature for what we're exploring today, which is moving from the mind into the field, from logic into gnosis, from thinking about wisdom to accessing it directly. This is a week of breakthrough, disruption, and mythical knowing. A week of accessing something beyond conventional thought and bringing it forward into the world, which is exactly what we're talking about today. The Akashic Records, what I learned from having mine read, and what eventually came through as a result. A mission for collective earth healing that's now becoming real embodied work. All Patreon members get the full weekly transit list every Monday at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. All right, so let's begin. So let me tell you about the reading that changed everything, even though I didn't know it at the time. So in November 2024, 2 different people in my life separately brought up Akashic Records within the same week. I took that as a sign, and one of them recommended the Little Souls School, and I found a reader through their platform, and interestingly enough, I'm actually doing my own Akashic Records certification program with them now, which I decided after planning this episode, funny enough. But in November 2024, I had gifted myself a reading for my birthday. And so I went in with specific questions. What does my soul want me to know about why I'm here? Am I on the right track with shadow work? Is there a particular part of myself I should be working with that I'm not? An ancestor or past life self I need to connect with? And what came through, I didn't fully understand then. But now, over a year later, as I'm stepping into this work, it's starting to make sense. And so the reader, she told me, essentially, your soul is full of sacred geometry in this unique way. All these shapes and forms. She said I was a master of sacred geometry and alchemy in another life. And I made up my own way of recording knowledge, a system only I could decode so that I could access it in this life. And of course, when she says that, I'm like, okay, but how? And the skeptical part of me is like, yeah, right. But she said I can download all of that knowledge because it's mine. And through anything that clears my mind and lets me access my soul, like watching smoke rise, creating art, meditation, when my mind gets quiet, I can access her, that past life self, that master. And when she said that, immediately I knew who she was talking about. So the skeptic part of my brain had to go a little quieter because there's this old crone that I've seen in my own meditations and dreams. And she stands on a stormy cliff and with the forest full of fairies behind her. And the place feels like Avalon, maybe. I don't know exactly. But she feels like an ancestor and also like me, but this is not me. Another me. And so I asked the reader, do you mean light codes with this sacred geometry piece? And I just heard the term and honestly thought it was kind of out there. But she said, yes, light codes are part of it. But you also have something just for you. Knowledge you didn't want others to be able to decode and use for harm, a system only you can read. And that made sense to me in a way, because I've always thought in high visual imagery. In color, in 3D and 4D. The way I picture math is visualizing it in my brain. Shapes and Platonic forms instantly made sense to me because that's how my brain works. I'm good at puzzles. If you believe in IQ tests, which I'm not sure if I do, but I was forced to take one because I didn't do well timing wise on the Connecticut mastery exam, and they were concerned. But I ended up having a really high visual IQ, and it was a part of my neurodiversity. And then I just had to learn test taking skills, which turned out to be really useful in our world, though annoying at the time, trying to get 4th and 5th graders to learn test taking skills. Gosh, I don't know how teachers do it. But the point is, sacred geometry wasn't and isn't abstract to me. It's already how I see the world. So then the Akashic reader, she told me, shadow work and working with women, yes, that's definitely part of your mission. Your soul's right on track. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. But it's okay to slow down and trust the unfolding of life. And then she said the thing that I couldn't really hear at the time, but that's been echoing louder and louder ever since. And that was the most important thing for you to know, other than the sacred geometry piece, is that you need to think of the collective and the earth as your primary client. She kept saying it. The earth is your primary client. She said you've done one-on-one healing work over many lifetimes. And that feels true. It comes very naturally. But she said your mission is much bigger than individual healing. The earth is your primary client. And she said something else that landed deep, which was that past life soul, the one who mastered the sacred geometry and alchemy, she was kind of stuck serving individuals. And she longed to give this information to the collective, to put it in the hands of the people, not just the one-on-one clients who came to her or who she was forced to serve. And so when I heard that, something in me recognized it. That longing, that frustration, that sense that one-on-one work, as beautiful and necessary as it is, isn't the full picture. That there's something bigger calling. But I didn't know what to do with it. I left that reading feeling curious, skeptical, honestly. I didn't know how to make sense of the earth is your primary client. So I put it on a shelf and I kept doing my work as an individual therapist, relearning what healing looks like in this world. And then 2 weeks after the Akashic Records reading, I decided to try what she suggested. I lit incense and I watched the smoke rise. I felt silly, but I asked, how do I heal the earth? And as I meditated on the smoke, the urge to paint showed up. So I got out my watercolors and I just let it flow. One shape at a time, a line, a curve I'd seen in the smoke that captured my attention. I intuited the color and where to put it on the page. And I ended up with this painting, and I had no idea what it meant. So I let it sit. And a few months later, I got it out again, and I started to see letters in the painting. There was also, interestingly, another story in the painting, a story of the soul friends in my life. That's a different topic. It kind of had a double meaning, though, which was cool. But I wrote down all the letters I could see, and I stared at them. And eventually, I gave them to AI. Claude is my preferred AI, to help me rearrange them into words. And the exact letters in the painting became the 4 steps of the mission. Awaken, love, cleanse, mend. The framework for healing the earth was encoded in a painting I made while watching smoke rise 2 weeks after being told the earth is my primary client. Cool. But I still didn't know what to do with it. So I decided that I was going to start the Goddess Coven and put up the Heal the Earth mission page. And at the time, I tried a social media approach to build community, but it burnt me out. And as it turns out, it's really hard to start community from scratch that way. So I let the Goddess Coven sit. I added to the website over time, making the embodiment library and ritual grimoire free, starting to give access to what usually is gate-kept information. And then I got the strong push to get off social media. So I did. And I waited for something more to come through. And then over the next year, things started shifting. I got an offer to start teaching at university, which felt like a step into the mother role, but also into broadening my reach. And then I fell 75 feet in my priestess initiation of old, which is now episode 11, by the way. Some of you might have noticed this, and I posted it on our Patreon and our YouTube, but a lot of the older episode numbers got reordered kind of by accident. This is a new podcaster mistake, but essentially I didn't realize that when you make something a bonus episode, it doesn't show up to everyone. And so I ended up giving that episode a number, and that number is 8. So that means that from episode 8 through 14, all the other numbers got thrown off, but it ended up being kind of perfect because now Isis is 10 and the fall is episode 11. And I got 11 skin grafts on each hand. So it worked out perfectly. Cool how that happens. Anyways, so I healed after my fall, and about a year after that Akashic reading, the podcast idea came to me as a way to reach people that felt sustainable and authentic to who I am. And I also knew I would need partnerships. Like I learned in my fall recovery, I can't do it alone always. So I started reaching out to others, calling in aligned business relationships, and I still am. And more recently, I restructured the Goddess Coven to be purely educational so that I could more safely claim my full credentials publicly, integrating my priestess and therapist identities. And the earth is my primary client. In a lot of ways, Kali is in my 11th house, which is destruction for collective transformation. My north node's in Scorpio in the 10th house, public work, depth, initiation. So I wasn't supposed to do shadow work just with individual women. I was supposed to teach it publicly, to build containers where we hold earth grief collectively, to create a framework, awaken, love, cleanse, mend, that anyone can use, that's given freely, that's for the people. That's what the Akashic Records told me, and it took a little over a year of living it to understand what it meant. So what are the Akashic Records exactly? So let me be clear from the start. This is my understanding of the Akashic Records. This is not fact. This is how I've come to understand them through my own experience, my reading, and the downloads I've received. And other people might describe them differently, and that's okay. This is what makes sense to me. So let me start with the individual level, because that's where most people encounter them. Your individual Akashic records are your soul's memory across all lifetimes, past, present, and future. This isn't human memory, like remembering what you had for breakfast or what happened when you were 5. This is soul memory, essential knowledge, key moments, patterns your soul is working with, lessons you've learned and are still learning. So when I access my Akashic records, I'm connecting to my soul's journey. What I've mastered in other lives, what I'm here to do in this one. What patterns I'm repeating or breaking. What knowledge I carry that I can access when I need it. And it's not about remembering every detail of every lifetime, though that would be cool. It's about accessing the essence, the essential knowledge and key moments that matter for this life right now. And here's what's crucial. Your individual Akashic records aren't separate from everything else. They're part of something larger. Your individual records are part of what I call the library of all, the collective Akashic records. And I came up with that term when I wrote a poem about this experience, and it really clicked for me. The library of all, the place where all individual souls' records interconnect. Think of it like this. Imagine concentric circles. And the innermost circle is your individual Akashic records, your soul's journey, your lifetimes, your essential patterns. And then the middle circle is the library of all, the collective Akashic records where all individual souls' knowledge interconnects. This is the realm of shared wisdom, archetypal patterns, evolutionary knowledge. This is where you can access information beyond just your own soul's journey. And then the outermost circle would be source, God, the universe, whatever you want to call it. The creative intelligence behind it all. So when I access my Akashic records, I'm accessing the innermost circle, my soul's knowledge. But theoretically, I haven't done this yet. Or, well, maybe I haven't done it intentionally, I'll say. But I can move outward into the collective layer, accessing archetypal wisdom, shared human experience, the templates that shape reality. And as I'm saying that, I actually think that's exactly what's happening when we channel goddesses, when you channel an archetype. And so, totally done that. Okay. And here's where it gets interesting. Because different traditions and different teachers have been pointing to the same phenomenon for thousands of years. They just use different language. And if you're noticing today that I am off track, I have been a little bit brain foggy this week. My fibromyalgia has been flaring up. I think it's in response to our very significant weather pattern shifts here in Colorado, but you might hear it in my voice, and that's part of this. That's part of this process. And so I'm just going to name that. Anyway, so Carl Jung, you've heard of him. If you've been listening to this podcast, I've talked about him a good amount. Carl Jung called it the collective unconscious. And he basically said that there's a layer of the psyche that's shared across all humans, that we inherit archetypal patterns, symbols, and knowledge that transcends individual experience. So when you dream of the Great Mother, or the shadow, or the hero's journey, you're accessing the collective unconscious, shared templates that live in all of us. Plato, he's a kind of big shot philosopher. If you haven't heard of him, you probably have. But Plato called it the realm of forms. And he said there's a perfect eternal realm where the forms exist. The form of justice, the form of beauty, the form of truth. These are the templates behind material reality. And when I took philosophy class in undergrad, my professor explained Platonic forms in terms of like shapes and numbers as well, and mathematical concepts, which made a lot of sense to me. So this idea of what a perfect triangle is, but in our reality, you're actually never going to see one on a molecular level. But you know what a perfect triangle is. So everything in the physical world for Plato is an imperfect reflection of these perfect forms. And then Ralph Waldo Emerson called it the Oversoul. He said that there's a universal spirit that connects all individual souls, that we're all part of one greater consciousness. And when we access the Oversoul, we're accessing wisdom that belongs to all of us. And I'm going through this because I'm trying to emphasize the fact that this exists in so many different places, right? And more recently, I met a man at a dinner party who told me that some of my beliefs around the collective unconscious connect to Jewish mysticism. And so I looked into it and found the world of Atzulith in Kabbalah, and I might be pronouncing that incorrectly. Please forgive me if I am. Please feel free to write the correct pronunciation in the comments. But essentially, what I read is that this is the highest realm of pure archetypes and divine emanation. And then in Yogacara Buddhism, again, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, it's called Alaya Vijnana. And it's the storehouse consciousness, which is the deepest layer of consciousness that stores all karmic seeds and impressions. And these two last traditions that I'm naming are not my traditions. And so I'm not an expert on them, but just in an initial assessment, they seem to be pointing to the same thing, which is interesting. Different traditions, different language, same essential truth, different philosophers. And that truth is that there's a layer of reality beyond individual consciousness where we can access shared wisdom. Whether you call it Akashic Records, collective unconscious, the field, source, Oversoul, Platonic forms, the world of Atzula, Alaya Vijnana, or the library of all, you're pointing to the same thing. A place where knowledge is stored, where patterns exist, where souls record their journeys, where we can access information that's bigger than just our individual minds. And different people access it differently. Jung did it through active imagination and dream work. Plato did it through philosophy and dialect and math, honestly, which is interesting that you can get there from such a masculine place. And then indigenous cultures did it through ceremony and ritual. And I do it through meditation, watching smoke rise, painting, and letting my mind get quiet enough to listen. Different methods, same destination. And here's what I want you to understand. You don't have to believe in metaphysical realms to work with this. You can approach it psychologically. Jung's framework is historically known in psychology communities. You can approach it philosophically. Plato's theory is rigorously logical. It's debated in universities across the world to this day. You can approach it spiritually. The Akashic Records as mystical truth. What matters is, I believe there is something we can access beyond our individual conscious minds. There is shared wisdom, and there is a way to tap into knowledge that doesn't come from books or teachers or personal experience alone. And when you access it, however you access it, it changes things. It shows you what you're here to do. It reveals patterns you couldn't see before, and it gives you frameworks and maps that help you navigate your life and your work. That's what happened to me, right? I accessed my individual Akashic Records with the help of another person, right, a reader, and learned about my soul's journey. And I accessed the collective layer and received a framework for earth healing that I didn't consciously create, right? And that's the power of the Akashic Records. That's why I'm talking about them, even while I continue to decipher what they mean to me. And so I want to share something with you. It's a poem I wrote that captures what it feels like to access this place, the library of all, the collective unconscious, the Akashic Records from before I even really knew what the Akashic Records are. This poem is from my book, Soul Invitation, a book of poems, which I'll link in the episode description. And I'm also posting the full poem on Patreon for members. One quick note, in the original poem, I edited Library of All to Library of Secrets. which was an editing choice to make the poem clearer, but the concept's the same. So here it is. Collective unconscious. Sometimes I stare at the stars, Venus bright above treetops, in all her beauty, and wonder why my soul is here on earth in this lifetime. What purpose is there in this seemingly powerless existence? In fighting a war against the man, looming larger than our tallest towers, casting a shadow of hate over the world. The soul longs to fly through oceans with wings of violet flame, on mermaid's spine, listening to the call of my friends, the silver whales. Under the vivid blood moon, I see shapes and patterns between leaves, faces in the bark of ancient trees, something familiar in the Platonic forms, in the archetypes of gods. What knowledge does this old soul hold? If I swam into the ocean of my unconscious, floating in the liminal space where body meets mind, would I find the core of my soul in a hidden library of secrets? Dust-torn pages and fireflies light the corridors of the shelves between folds of the universe. What other souls might I find in the shadows of this cosmic consciousness? Shelving the knowledge of our lifetimes, written in the life water of our bodies, I meet my Anam Kara here again. The silver whales and gold-armored eagles, an angel with ebony wings. We arm our souls with tattooed weapons, making agreements to meet again as we prepare for the final battle, with knowledge of each seemingly powerless lifetime inked into the collective unconscious. Yeah, so I wrote this poem before my Akashic Records reading, and that the title is Collective Unconscious, Jung's language, not Akashic language. But I was already describing it, the library between folds of the universe, the old soul knowledge, the Platonic forms, meeting soul friends, which is what Anam Kara means. It means soul friend. Across lifetimes, and swimming into the ocean of my unconscious to find what I already knew. I was already accessing it. I just didn't have the full language for it yet. And that's the Akashic Records. That's the collective unconscious. That's the library of all. So now let me ground us back in psychology, because whether or not you believe in Akashic Records, whether or not you think the library of all is real, there's something we can all agree on. Humans need meaning. We need purpose. We need to feel our lives matter. This isn't mysticism. This is established psychological science. Viktor Frankl, a psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, wrote Man's Search for Meaning, which is a really great book. Highly recommend it. It's based on his experience in Nazi concentration camps. And he observed that the prisoners who survived weren't necessarily the strongest or the healthiest. They were the ones who had a reason to live, a purpose, something that mattered beyond their own survival. And so Frankl developed what he called logotherapy, which is therapy centered on finding meaning. He said the primary human drive isn't pleasure or power, it's meaning. When we have meaning, we can endure almost anything. And when we lose meaning, we collapse, even when our circumstances are objectively fine. And then Guillaume, another existential psychotherapist, talks about the 4 ultimate concerns of human existence: death, freedom, isolation, and meaninglessness. And of those 4, meaninglessness might be the hardest to bear. Because when life feels meaningless, we don't know why we're here or what we're supposed to do. And we suffer deeply. And the research backs this up. Studies show that people with a strong sense of purpose live longer. They have better mental health. They're more resilient in the face of adversity. They recover faster from trauma. Having meaning isn't just nice to have. It's essential for psychological well-being. So here's what I want you to understand. You don't have to believe in Akashic Records to work with this. You don't have to think there's a cosmic library or past lives or soul missions. But you do need meaning. You do need to feel your life has purpose, and you do need to know why you're here. And right now, with climate crisis, with systems collapsing, with so much grief and terror and uncertainty, we desperately need a shared story of purpose. We need to feel our lives matter, that what we're doing contributes to something bigger, that there's a reason we're here in this moment at this threshold facing this crisis. That's what the Akashic Records gave me. Not meaning, I already had that. I had meaning in showing up for my clients, my friends, my partner, my family. But the Akashic Records gave me a mission, a sense of purpose that's bigger than my individual healing work, which is already very meaningful. But the earth is my primary client, and I feel I'm here to build containers for collective earth healing. I'm here to teach people how to metabolize grief and transform it into action. I'm here to shift consciousness so we can build the new world. And that added layer of meaning, that expanded sense of purpose, that's what helps me bear the grief of what's happening on this planet and to this planet right now. That's what gets me through my days. When you wake up and you look at the news right now, it's one thing after another. But this meaning, my meaning, that's what gets me up in the morning. That's what helps me bear the grief. And you need your meaning too. You need to know why you're here, what your role is, what you're called to do in this moment. Maybe it comes through an Akashic Records reading. I'll be offering those probably in the spring, so that'll be exciting. Patreon members will be the first to know, of course, and probably get some good discounts. Maybe it comes through therapy. Maybe it comes through prayer or meditation or a conversation with a friend, or just sitting with the question until the answer arises. It doesn't matter how you find it. What matters is that you find it. Because meaning is medicine. Purpose is survival. Knowing why you're here, that's what allows you to keep going when everything else feels impossible. And that's what I'm offering with the Heal the Earth mission. Not just a framework for planetary healing, but a story of purpose, a reason to be here, a way to make meaning out of the crisis we're living through. This isn't just environmental activism or social activism. This is existential work. This is meaning making in the face of collapse as a form of activism. This is saying, yes, the world is burning, and yes, I have a role to play, and yes, my life matters because I'm choosing to show up for what matters. That's what we need. That's what the Heal the Earth mission's about. So let me tell you more about the Heal the Earth mission and the framework that came through in that painting. The 4 phases encoded in the letters I saw in the smoke were awaken, love, cleanse, and mend. So I'll start with awaken, which is the first step to healing the earth, is awakening to its sacredness. This means remembering that the earth is not a resource to exploit, but a living, breathing entity to honor. Awakening calls you to recognize the interconnected web of life and your role as both a participant and steward of its cycles. By aligning with the wisdom of the seasons and nature's rhythms, you step into the flow of life and reconnect with ancient truths. And so currently as a collective, I feel like we're deeply focused on this step, awaken. Reconnecting with the earth's sacredness, honoring her rhythms and aligning our lives with the natural cycles that guide and sustain us. That's where we are now. That's the work of this moment. And some of us are on step 2, and that's great. Because if you're on step 2, that means you can guide people in step 1. But step 2 is love. Healing begins with love, the energy that binds all things. When you love the earth, you honor its beauty, its spirit, and its gifts. Love is active and transformative, guiding you to care for the planet as you would a cherished friend. It means choosing kindness, compassion, and sustainable actions that nurture the earth and its cycles. Let love inspire your daily choices and create ripples of healing energy. And this is what I talked about in last week's episode on Kali. Love is what transforms Kali's rage into power that serves life. Love for the earth, love for each other, love that refuses to let the world die. We can't build from shame. We can't build from guilt. We can't build from numbness. We have to metabolize those emotions so we can build from connection, from care, from fierce love. And the third step is cleanse. And the earth carries the weight of humanity's neglect. So cleansing involves removing what no longer serves, whether it's pollution, destructive habits, or energetic harm. This step is both physical, picking up litter, reducing waste, and spiritual, using rituals and prayers to clear negative imprints, to collectively mourn. Cleansing creates space for renewal, preparing the earth and ourselves for deeper healing. Cleanse is Kali's work, destruction that clears space for what must come. And the fourth step is mend. And so after cleansing, we have to repair what's been broken. And that doesn't mean putting it back together exactly the same way. Mending is an act of restoration that requires patience and creativity. It means planting trees and rebuilding ecosystems and learning from indigenous wisdom to honor sustainable ways of living. Mending also begins within. Healing the parts of ourselves that feel disconnected from nature helps us create harmony and balance outwardly. And mending is the work of many generations. This is what our great-great-grandchildren will still be doing. We're planting seeds we might not see bloom. We probably won't see bloom. And that's okay. That's the work. Now, I want to be clear. This framework came through me. I created it from light symbols before I'd ever heard of similar work. But when my partner, Matthew Fisher, introduced me to Joanna Macy's work, her ideas made innate sense within the framework I'd already conceptualized. And so I realized that we're part of the same lineage, along with many others before her and after her, all working toward the same thing, which is helping people metabolize grief and turn it into active hope. That's using Joanna Macy's language for it. And I'm not doing this work alone. Matthew, my partner, will be co-facilitating Awaken to Heal the Earth circles with me starting in the spring. And he's bringing the masculine Shiva holding, the grounded, steady presence that allows Kali's transformative energy to move without destroying everything. And so he'll be holding Joanna Macy's framework around grief work, helping people process the emotions, the overwhelm, the despair. And I'll be focusing more on somatic movement and sending healing to the earth. Because here's what I learned from Kali. Love is the solution. Not abstract, passive love, but embodied, active, fierce love that moves through our bodies and into the world. All events related to the Heal the Earth mission are intentionally open to all humans, regardless of gender identity, race, sexuality, body size, religion, or ethnicity. Events are offered on a free or donation basis under the Heal the Earth mission in order to ensure accessibility. And so the circles are happening this spring in Colorado, and specific locations and dates will be announced soon. You can find them on the Goddess Coven's event page, and they'll be sent out to email subscribers and Patreon members. This is multi-generational work. We're not going to fix this in our lifetimes, but we can do our part. We can show up, we can awaken, we can love, we can cleanse, and we can begin to mend. That's the mission. That's what the Akashic Records gave me. So that's what I'm building. And I'm inviting you to be part of it. So here's your closing practice. Let's close with a practice that's a way to begin the awaken phase in your own life by reconnecting with Earth's rhythms. So close your eyes if it's safe to do so, and just start by taking a deep breath. And bring awareness to your body. Just taking a moment to feel yourself here on this earth. The Awaken phase is about reconnecting with the Earth's sacredness. And one of the most powerful ways to do that is by aligning with her rhythms. The cycles that have been guiding life on this planet for millions of years. So first, just take a moment to think about the lunar phases. The moon's phases mirror the cycles of growth, release, and renewal within the Earth and within you. The new moon calls for intention. The full moon invites release. By honoring these rhythms, you align yourself with the Earth's natural flow. So take a moment to ask yourself, how can I honor the moon's cycles? Maybe it's setting intentions at the new moon. Maybe it's releasing what no longer serves at the full moon. Maybe it's simply pausing to notice where the moon is and what she's teaching you. If you need support with this one, our Patreon's designed to support you in honoring the moon cycles. And so second, I want you to think about the seasonal cycles. Each equinox, solstice, and cross-quarter day offers an opportunity to tune into nature's transitions. The earth moves through cycles of life, death, and rebirth, light and dark, growth and rest. So in this moment, feeling yourself here on earth right now, ask yourself, how can I celebrate the earth's cycles? Maybe it's marking the solstices and equinoxes with a ritual. Maybe it's simply noticing how your energy shifts with the seasons. Maybe it's resting in winter and creating in spring, just as the earth does. And third, I want you to think about the cycles within you. The earth's rhythms are mirrored in your body, in the phases of your life, childhood, being a grumpy teenager, maturing, aging. It's in the rhythms within you. Menstrual cycles, hormonal shifts, energy ebbs and flows. And men do have hormone cycles, by the way. They're on the cycle of the sun. Whereas, people with wombs, hormone cycles tend to be more on the cycle of the moon. But just as the earth needs rest, growth, and renewal, so do you. So whatever cycles you picked inside yourself, ask yourself, how can I honor the cycles within my own body? How can I let myself rest when I need rest, create when I need to create, and release when I need to let go? Take one more breath. And choose one way you'll align with Earth's rhythms this week. Maybe you'll notice the moon phase and set an intention. Maybe you'll mark the season with a small ritual. Maybe you'll simply honor your own body's need for rest or movement. One action, one way of awakening to the earth's sacredness. And when you're ready, open your eyes. You've begun. The Awaken phase starts here, with you, with your body, with your willingness to reconnect with the rhythms that have always been guiding you. Everything we explore here lives in practice. There's a link in the episode description for our free website resources where you'll find our ritual grimoire, embodiment library, and online workshops diving deeper into the work. By the way, there is a new free workshop up there on Hecate for anyone who's interested. And if this work is serving you and you want to support the podcast, please rate the show, especially if you're on Apple or Spotify. The algorithms really favor shows that have more ratings. And so It's a great way to support the show if you're looking for a free way to support. I also have a Patreon, which I've mentioned a few times, but you can get your monthly new moon rituals, weekly astrology translits, the ability to list your business in our Coven shop, and when I start offering Akashic Records readings, Patreon members will be the first to know. The link is in the episode description, and your support helps me keep creating this content and building the Coven. Thank you so much. Subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss an episode. Trust the spiral. This podcast offers spiritual and psychological education and priestess wisdom. This is not therapy, counseling, or mental health treatment. If you need mental health support, please contact a licensed provider, and in a mental health emergency in the U.S., call 988.